Don't pass to Tyler, she's a girl. Growing up playing a sport predominantly dominated by men, I learned how to tap into my inner competitive nature. My first ever basketball team was in a co-ed league, and I played with my brother, who's 2 years younger. So I was the oldest one on the team, and my dad was the coach. But even then, I felt like an outsider on my own team. I was one of 2 girls in the entire league and the only girl on my team. So the boys didn't want to pass to me. And, I wasn't great, so I thought it might just be because of my skills. But I realized it was because I was a girl. These boys on my team didn't want to pass to me because of my gender. So when I said I wasn't great, I was actually terrible. I thought I could only rebound on defense, but that's besides the point, because I showed up and worked hard just like the rest of them. So with the craziness of COVID-19, I thought now would be the perfect time to share my story because everyone's hearing stories and news online. Now back to my first basketball team ever. I hated it because I was terrible and the boys on my team never ceased to remind me of that fact. One of them being my brother, so it was especially hard to hear. Now, I showed up to every practice and every game just like the boys on my team, and I worked hard every time because that's the only way I was going to get better. But I cried after every game and every practice, and I begged my parents to quit. And guess what? Every time, they said the same thing. Quitters never win. And it seemed like they're always just trying to shut me up. Like, come on, Tyler, quitters never win. But you know what? It became so much more to me. It has grown throughout my life and helped me become who I am today. So now, my first team wasn't a co-ed league, and I was one of 2 girls. My second team, co-ed league. My third team, co-ed league. My fourth team, co-ed league. And they were all the same. I hated it all. But I was getting better every year, but I still felt like an outsider just because I was a girl. And now this created a chip on my shoulder, and it tapped into a competitive fire inside of me that I didn't even know I had. I wanted to work harder. I wanted to get better and prove these boys wrong. So now, okay, that's great. I was terrible at basketball, and the boys told me about it. That's not that bad. But now here are some facts that just really make me think that I wasn't the only one to go through this, because in 2008, 45% of kids aged 6 to 12 played some sort of organized team sport. And 9 years later, in 2017, that number dropped to 37%. In the United States, there are about 40 million kids in that age range. So that means 3.2 million kids over 9 years just stopped playing organized team sports. Now, some team sports are expensive, so that makes sense, but that can't all be about the money. So here's how I think. The competitive nature of sports and the physical and mental challenges players are faced with deters them from playing. Now that's kind of a bold claim, so I have another fact from the New York Times, the same website where the other facts were from. 80% of youth athletes quit playing their sports by age 15. Okay, that can't all be about money. So here's how I see it. Athletes are faced with one of 2 challenges. One, girls are seen to be a certain way in society as they become teenagers and adults, so it deters them from playing their sports. Or 2, the children of this generation are just lacking that true competitive nature because of participation trophies and the more hand-holding way we've gone around growing up playing sports. Now, obviously, it's not fun to be told you're bad or to be the worst on a team, but that competitive nature to work harder that was instilled in me since I was a kid hasn't been instilled in the rest of the United States, which is shown from these facts. Okay, so you've heard my beginning story and some facts about sports, but how does that all tie together? It'll make sense soon. It wasn't love at first sight for me in basketball because I was terrible, and I had that competitive nature, so I didn't like to lose. I didn't like to be the worst on my team. I wanted to be good and to get cheered on for doing something good, not just participating. So going into my 7th grade year, I had played a few years of girls basketball, so I was much more confident on the court. Also, I had grown a bunch. I was about 5'9", so I had more skills and more height, so more confidence. I decided I was going to try out for a girls' travel team. This travel team was an 8th grade travel team, so I was going into the tryout as one of the younger girls, but I was one of the taller. There was only one girl taller than me, but she was going to be an 8th grader. Now, the coach of this team was a dad of a girl who I'd played with for the past 3 years in girls' leagues, so I knew that I could compete with her or even above her level. So I went in very confident. After the tryout, I thought I did a great job, but the coach told me, you just don't have what it takes. And I was devastated. I cried the whole car ride home. Guess what my dad said? Quitters never win. In that moment, things started to come together. I realized that I actually had a decision now. I was old enough. I could have just taken that summer and hung out with my friends, but I decided, no, I'm gonna work hard, make another team, and beat that coach, and beat that team and those girls, and show them that I have what it takes, and I could have been on their team, and I could have helped make them better. Because now I was old enough to know, quitters never win is really about, do you want to just forfeit, and you don't have to like lose, but you are losing because you don't even have the chance to win. And this competitive nature that was now instilled in me was shown throughout my entire life. And one great example of it off the court was last year in my junior English class. Now, English, not my best subject, and in this class, I'm not great at English, but that's besides the point. So my teacher handed out a worksheet and said, I lost my answer key, so whoever finishes this first will get a piece of candy. She was going to race too. It was a vocab worksheet. Really not great at vocab, but of course, a chance to win. I'm going to compete. So she hands out the papers and says go, and I start writing as fast as I can. My hand was cramping so much, I was so nervous, but I said, whatever, I want to win. So I finished, I held up my paper, and the whole class looked at me because I did jump up, because I'm a competitor. Being done first was exciting. My teacher looked at me and she was like, you're done? And I was like, yeah. Do I win? She's like, well, let's hear your answers. So I read out my answers, she checked as I went, and they were all right. So she walked over with a bucket of candy and said, congratulations. I'm surprised you did so fast, but here you go, you won. And I said, I'm all right. You can give my friend a piece of candy. She was so confused. I wasn't eating candy at the time, but I wanted to win. So she looked at me and was like, what? I was like, I just like to win. And she laughed, gave my friend the candy, and walked away. But that's just an example of how this competitive nature inside of me takes over my whole life, because even though the physical prize wasn't something I wanted, the win was worth more than that to me, because I just have that fire in me to work harder than the person next to me and anyone I possibly can. Now my last story and challenge I'm going to tell you doesn't have a clear winner or loser. It's not like a game where someone has more points than the other and that's it. I'd say it's a moral victory, but it's also a physical loss. But I look at it as something I've grown from, and it's greatly helped me. Going into my junior season on varsity basketball, I had played 2 years previously on varsity, so I had high hopes for the season. So one fall league practice, we were running sprints, and all of a sudden, I felt shooting pain go up and down my entire right leg, like nothing I'd ever felt before. I was really nervous. I had no idea what was going on. But we're running sprints, so I was racing the girl next to me. So we're running, and I couldn't, it hurt so bad, but I couldn't stop because I'm racing the girl next to me. So I finished the sprint, I finished practice, my whole leg felt like nothing I'd ever experienced before. So my coach could tell by my face, and I lost every sprint by a lot, but I still tried. And he was like, what's up? And I was like, my pain in my leg, it's just shooting pain, the whole thing. I don't know what's wrong. He's like, it's probably just sore, take a few days off. Now I'm a competitor, that's what I've been talking to you about. I didn't take a few days off. I practiced for the next week, and it was awful. It was unbearable. I couldn't do anything. So my coach said, okay, you're done. Sit for a week. I thought that was the worst news I could possibly hear. But out of an abundance of caution, my parents were like, let's get an MRI and just see. So later that night, we found out I tore my meniscus. I was devastated. I cried the whole night and the whole next day. I had no idea what I was going to do. But the doctor said, 6 weeks, sit out, see how it goes, and then maybe it'll be healed and you can continue to play. So for those 6 weeks, I tried to keep my head up, I tried to stay positive, but it wasn't fun being off the court. I was watching, my heart was breaking. I love basketball. I wanted to be out there competing with my teammates. And then the doctor told me 6 weeks later, you're out for season, you have to get surgery to repair your meniscus. My world was over. I had no idea what I was going to do. It was my junior basketball season. I was a captain. I wanted to lead my team to wins and win league, and I had all these goals for myself and my team, and I couldn't be on the court now. I was absolutely distraught. So 3 or 4 practices go by. I didn't show up to a lot of them, and when I did, I couldn't even look at the court without breaking into tears. So finally my coach pulls me aside and says, "Tyler, you're supposed to be a captain. Wake up, let's go." And it was like he pulled me out of a fog. All of a sudden, I had my new competition. I needed to be the best captain possible and help my team reach their goals from the sidelines by keeping their energy up and always being positive. So from that moment on, I was up high-fiving my teammates after every huddle, after every scrimmage, always trying to be positive and keep them happy. Now keep in mind, I was on crutches for a lot of this time, but I still showed up to every game and every practice. And I was at some practices before the rest of my teammates. And even towards the end of season, I was calling plays by the sidelines. Now, it wasn't all great because it was a competition for me. And usually in the past, if I have a big game coming up or I was competing, I'm going to tell all my friends and family, "Come watch me, come support me, come see me compete." But in this case, I couldn't do that. I couldn't talk to my friends. I couldn't tell my teammates how I really was feeling. They couldn't know about this competition because then that would negatively affect them on the court and negatively affect their mental state. So I had to be positive and keep a brave face on for months through season, missing out on the game I love, sitting from the sidelines, cheering them on while I was absolutely destroyed inside. And after the season, my teammates, they were positive. They did notice me. They appreciated it. They acknowledged me after and they said thank you. But you know what? It was hard for me. But in the end, it was a victory for me because I was able to help them. They all got better. They all won games. They had a great season. So it might have been the worst season ever for me, but I did win that competition I had made for myself because I helped my teammates. Now, without this competitive nature, from the boys at a young age doubting me or from not making the 6th grade team, I don't know if I would have made it through this season because that fire inside of me wanted to work harder. Even if it wasn't on the court, it was in my head the whole time. And I was competing against the fiercest and most stubborn competitor ever, myself. Every day was a battle, but I was able to embrace that within me and work hard to helping everyone around me. And that has taught me that this competitiveness that I've developed from basketball goes to so much more to that because I'm able to stand up for myself, girls basketball, and anything I ever want to help because of this fire inside of me helping me work harder. So now with this, I'm able to go up against any mental or physical challenge the rest of my life.